Hey friends, this is Sean Washburn from YourExcelTutor.com, and you're watching 30 Tips in 30 Days. And on today's tip, we're going to be talking about grouping. And you can group columns and you can group rows, but we're just going to focus on the columns today. And if you've never done this, really it's really helpful. If you have a small table like this, you might not need it. But the bigger your table gets and the more columns and the more rows, it can kind of get unmanageable. And if you have any case like this where you've got A, B, and C, and then you have a sub, I didn't even do that right, 8, 9, 10, 11, there we go. And you have sub dimensions and stuff like that under there, and you want to be able to group these so that you can minimize. So maybe this goes all the way out to Z. You don't want to have to scroll all the way out there and come all the way back each time. So what grouping does is, we'll come over here, if you go to the data tab, and then you'll see group. We're going to come in here and we're going to select. You always have to leave a placeholder. If you don't, so here's what happens. If I select all of this group A and hit group, what will happen is when I minimize that, group A is going to totally disappear. And in this case, I don't really want that because it gets confusing because I don't know where it went. And so if I did that for these other ones, it's actually going to group them all together. So I don't really want that. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to sort of undo that, highlight that, hit ungroup. And what I'm going to do instead is leave one placeholder, and then I'm going to do C, D, and E. And then placeholder, I'll do those two. Placeholder, I'll do these three. Okay. And then now what happens is any of these I can minimize on their own, and I'll still have the placeholder. And then if I hit 1, it'll minimize everything, and 2 will maximize everything. So it makes it really easy to, I could minimize and then say, okay, I just want to look at this stuff in B, and I don't have the other stuff cluttering up my, my whole thing there. Another thing you can do, you can do multiple layers to this. So if I wanted to, let's say C and D were kind of a subset, I could do this, hit group again. And in this case, it's confused because, let's undo that. A better example might be, like, let's say we do F through L, we'll hit group. It kind of, what it did is, because they're adjacent, it has trouble doing that, but what it did is it created another layer. So in this case, what it did is, if I hit 1, it minimized everything down to one column. When I hit 2, it shows me all of A, and then it shows me just the minimized to B and C, and then 3 shows me the other. So what you got to do is, depending on how you want to do your data and how you want to collapse like that, play around with different setups, but you do want to have a placeholder and then group the rest of the stuff. And then if you need to ungroup, you just highlight everything, hit ungroup like that, and then you're back to normal. So I found it really helpful when I've had tables where I had columns and columns and columns going off to the right side, and they were separated by groups of maybe 8 columns were all part of one thing. That's a perfect example of when to use this. So if you've got a table like that, I hope you'll try this and let me know how it goes. It should make things a lot cleaner and easier to work with for you. So check in tomorrow for another tip.